1, go live. Hello. Hello, everybody. We're gonna start in about 5 minutes. I might put a timestamp as well, just to, know exactly when we get started. But meanwhile, we'll probably start checking in attendees. Let's see. Dev. Just to have a question in mind while we wait. Does anybody here have experience with game development in the Discord?
Looked it up, but I don't I know some of it. Like I know about it, but I don't know about it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Game dev doesn't get you the money. Just kidding. Anyways, what is it called? Let's see. Okay. So then I'll probably just start checking in some attendees, and then we'll start pretty much exactly at 7. I'll also send an extra announcement. There you go. Everyone, starting the event. Da-da. Also, if there's people like playing back the YouTube video, it'll be very confusing for like the first 5 minutes, but like, we're gaming. Starting the event now. Do join. Go. Okay, check-in attendees. So just to double check everybody. Who's Gumo Gumo? I know that Zion is here. And then what else? Is there anybody else? Or you could actually just type in chat, by the way. Actually, for Christian. Oh wait, Christian, by the way, did you RSVP?
Give him a sec. He's trying to tell me that he has photos already.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, you don't have to technically, but it just like keeps track of attendance. And also, like,
I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, like, yeah, as I mentioned earlier. So basically, like, if I get enough attendance, like, and consistency, I could also start doing like giveaways because Google will just like send me like GDSC merch. Like, I don't know. I think last time they had like T-shirts and like those like pop sockets and stuff like that. So
T-shirt from. Should have said that. I don't have the T-shirt. Never mind. It's not the I'm not the president. That's why.
Okay.
See, if I was president.
Okay. I guess I'll just start. Okay.
I can't see the stream for some reason.
Oh yeah, I think it's because like it's loading the. Okay, let me.
Oh, there we go.
Retry this. Oh, there you go. Sometimes it does glitch out. All right. Attendees at event. Forums. see. I guess that's why. Well, it's fine. It's not like super necessary, anyways. Okay, I'll get the presentation started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Introduction to Application Development through Unity Game Development. And I'm the speaker for today. I'm Kenta Yamamoto. I am the current Mount Sac GDSC lead. And if you want to just look at my LinkedIn, there we go. I'll share the slideshow, so you can just follow along. Oh, by the way, Emmy, are you able to? Oh wait, or actually no, that's Junzi. Okay. Hello. Okay, here you go. I am the speaker. I'm Kenta Yamamoto, and I'll be doing the presentation. Here are the contents for how I'm going to structure this presentation. I'll first start with the intro, as in I'll start introducing game development as a whole, as well as a little bit of application development. And then number two, I'll go deep into the roles and technologies needed to do game development, or like to make a complete game. And then I'll talk about my developer experience as an intern in game programming, and then I'll do the conclusion and the Q&A. All right, for the intro. So, what is game development? Here is the quote-unquote official definition I got from Camp, and it is defined as the art of creating games, and it also describes design, development, and the release of game. And you might be asking, why did I choose game dev as like the kind of, what is it called? The main way to convey how application development works. So for one, games, I think they're familiar to a lot of people. So this might be a good example point. And then also I have experience like working in game dev a little bit. So what is involved in the making games? This actually is a little bit more complex than sometimes a good amount of people think. And there's many aspects in making a whole game. There's stuff like marketing, there's visuals, game design structure. You have to make sure it plays well. In terms of visuals, you have to make sure it looks well, fits the art style. Deadline scheduling, like managing that kind of thing. There's programming, of course, sound effects, BGM. That has to be kept in mind, like QA testing, budgeting. There's a lot of components that go into game development rather than just making the game. And there's a lot of tools that could be used to help in this process. And the game can fail with even one component that's like missing or flawed. And if you have been in like the game field for a little bit, you might have saw a few examples of that, but it'd be like that. Right. So the relation to application development as a whole. There's a lot of types of application development, but I think the roles from game development do carry over a good amount. That's because a lot of the roles overlap between the different fields. For example, maybe a project manager, even though they're managing different projects and they have different workflows, ultimately, the role does carry over. The tools are also similar. There's a lot of people in the game industry that use like Jira, for example, and then that same project management tool could be used in, let's say, maybe like web development, right? And there's also a similar amount of components in creating a whole app. So, there's a lot of like technologies and stuff involved, like a similar amount of them between different types of application development. So I would like to ask a small check-in question. So what is your favorite video game, and what seems like the most technically complex game from games? I'll give probably just like 10 seconds to answer, and then we'll move on to the next slide. But for me, personally, my favorite game, I'd say, is like Dragon Ball FighterZ. And I think in general, like fighting games seem pretty technically complex because, you have to consider like how many frames each move hits, and like especially designing it seems pretty complex. Because you have to like balance a lot of characters, make sure they all play fair. Well, if you're just like doing a transitional fighting game, for example. Okay, so from Josh, he says roguelike video games like Enter the Gungeon or smaller games like Podigal. Um, but yeah, no, I've seen a lot of those before, and yeah, those are like really, or those seem like really fun. Because there's like a lot of exploration. I believe it's also technically 2D, but like, you know, I think Hades is like it's like 2.5D from what I saw. Um, that's also a pretty good game. I believe it got close to winning Game of the Year. So there is that. Of course, it does also seem pretty technically complex, as in, a lot of art assets to consider. Maybe if you're doing like endless mode, you have to consider like how you would generate new like maps and stuff like that. I believe Enter the Gungeon has that type of mode. Um, Call of Duty needs new devs. Okay, that for real, for real. But play some good, what is it called, FPS games like Apex and stuff like that. EA is not always consistent, but it's there. All right, next, roles and technologies. So first role I would like to introduce is a game programmer. Oh, by the way, keep in mind, just for time constraint reasons, I won't go like over every single role in the development of games. Um, so typically working with a game engine, because you don't want to make every asset from scratch. Like you don't want to do collisions and code the whole thing for that yourself. So like you want to use tools to help you with that. And some of these include Unity, Unreal Engine, and Godot. Godot is actually a pretty up and coming one. It's free and open source, so if you want to check that out, feel free to. But I have the most experience with Unity. And then we use scripts to give extra functionality to game objects. And in Unity, we use C# to give this functionality. In Unreal Engine, use C++. In Godot, I believe that more languages have been supported over time, but GDScript was the first one, and it was like just a built-in programming language for Godot. It's kind of similar to Python. And then, as a game developer, you are focused on the implementation of functionality. And usually, unless you're like an indie game dev, the art assets and the actual design of like gameplay and storyboarding and everything come from designer and artist. Um, and here are some learning resources. Again, I'll be sharing this slide later, so make sure to check those out if you are interested in looking at game dev. And then example technology. We have Unity and C#. This is the one I have the most experience with, so I'll be talking about this one. So the game engine is Unity, and there's various ways within Unity itself to add functionality to the game that are built in to Unity. So the event system basically like calls some kind of function or does something when you do a certain action. For example, buttons have this event system built in. It's like called a button press. And then you could just add onto the event like using the what is it called, the visual interface itself. You don't even have to code it. But you could also make custom events through scripting. And there's like I believe, library is the right word for it. And then those could be pretty helpful when you're making your custom events. There are also pre-made objects. These are like just like geometric shapes that you could just put in and stuff like that. And you could also color it and stuff like that with I believe, I forgot what it's called. It's a sprite. You could put it on top of the object to like color it like with a custom made thing. There's also built-in UI elements where there's like buttons, canvases for like storing all the elements in the UI and etc. And it's not on here, but there's also 2D mode for Unity and also 3D mode. Those are two separate things, but they're both within the Unity engine. So for the scripting languages, it's C#, is a little bit similar to Java. And actually, like, as long as you know programming in general, you don't have to really know like too much about C sharp specifically, because it's actually like, yeah, I feel like I didn't even know any C sharp when I first started with Unity, and I just got into it because, you know, if you know programming, pretty good, or like you're pretty sound with it. And these scripts are usually attached to objects to give set objects functionality. But you could also use these scripts as objects to like put a function on some kind of game object so that it like moves a certain way or like detects collisions a certain way and stuff like that. And it uses Unity's like built-in library. So a lot of like the pre-made functions and stuff are made by Unity. All right. So second role, project manager. Very important because if you want to release a game on time, this is key, especially when you're working with like hundreds of employees and stuff like that. So you want to keep on schedule, and here are some of the example tools. Our team in the internship used Jira, Trello. Trello is kind of a neighbor to Jira. It's a little bit more simple. There's a GitHub like built-in project stuff, and then there's Waffly.io. And there's also like a series of different methodologies for different projects. There's a waterfall, which is the most traditional, just like a linear start to end schedule. And this is good if you're working on like a very clearly defined project that has like a very clear start and end goal. However, our team used an agile methodology. And this is because we have to go through a lot of changes. A lot of game features actually ended up getting scrapped in the game that I worked on. But that's why agile methodology is there. So this emphasizes a lot of quick versions of a game, and we have to do an iterative process where we have to like have the project like subject to change. It just changes a lot, and we make many final versions, and we test a lot. And there's also more methodologies here, but you could read about that there. And here are some of the learning resources you could check out later if you are interested in project management. And here is Jira. I probably should have added more visuals to Unity as well, but like, you know. Jira is mainly used for the agile workflow. So this is for like getting stuff done very quickly and testing new versions of applications very quickly. And then we create issues, which is like basically the name for tasks. You press that little blue create button and you'll be able to create an issue. Kanban boards, this is like the visual structure of the task list. So you could kind of think of this as a group to-do list if you would like to. And then the roadmap actually defines the like bigger schedule of the full project. And you could also set lengths of how long that person has to do a certain feature, for example. And you could also see a lot of stats from the administration. What's it called? From the administration end, you could see a lot of like stats about like how people are doing on tasks and stuff like that. That's also a really nice feature. Oh, oops. So this is the third role, your artist. Oh wait, actually before that, for Jira, you do want to keep in mind that this will be used probably across a lot of different industries. So like for example, if it was web dev, the only thing that would pretty much change is like the types of tasks and stuff like that. So this probably carries over to a lot of different roles in software development. All right, so for the third role, we have our artist. And this person creates a variety of art assets for the game. This includes 2D art using a variety of technologies for whatever you need. For example, if you need like pixel art specifically, there's a website that lets you create pixel art. If you want to create a UI or a user interface, like something like this, then you would use like Photoshop, Figma, GIMP is like a free version of Photoshop. It has a little bit less features, but it's really good to get started. There's also 3D art, and you can make that using Blender. You could use like the in-game engine stuff, and then there's also Autodesk. That's like more for like engineering and CADing, but it's also a viable way to make 3D models. And there's different art styles you probably want to focus on request because different projects have different art styles. This also carries over to something like web dev or mobile development, um, because certain employers or certain companies might have a different art style that you have to stick with. And here is a pretty good guide of different art styles. And this might be also good reference for other projects with different fields like mobile development or web development. You also maybe want to make concept art, and in this case, it would probably be mockup, like designs of characters and stuff. But in web dev, it might be something like, let's say in Figma, you could make a mockup of a website, or you could just draw it out. That's probably what the concept art would be in the scope of like something like that. And then these are the file formats for art. There's a variety of them. You just want to use the proper ones. And here's a guide to a few of them. So example technology, we have Photoshop. This is a software made for like 2D graphic designs, photo editing. Some of the main features is that it has a lot of layers, so that you could have like certain drawings on one layer and then layer another one on top of that. There's also text boxes. It comes with a lot of fonts as well, so you have a lot of options to use for the fonts. Um, there's also, I believe, what is it called? Subject selection and erasure. I believe this is powered by like AI, so that it kind of detects like which part or which object you want to erase specifically. Um, and here are some learning resources. You could of course check it out after this presentation. I'll be sharing the slides. And then there's Blender. This is pretty industry standard, I'd say, technology, or is becoming one. Um, it is for creating 3D assets. It's also free and open source, so if you just want to get it like very quickly, you can do that. And it has like really realistic rendering, which is like one of the special properties of Blender, as you can see with this donut. Um, and then there's also very powerful like virtual effects. So if you want to do like movie making or something, there's also that as an option. Um, and then it also has a built-in storyboard feature. So if you want to do storyboarding for your game, you could also do that. And here are some learning resources for Blender. You could have a lot of fun with this. But yeah. So the fourth role, the designer. This is a very broad role though. As in, it also like depends on the game category. Maybe if you're doing a fighting game, your design process might be a little bit different. If you're doing like an RPG, you might be doing a lot more dialogue. There's that kind of stuff to consider. And then in the scope of, let's say, web development or app development, this would basically be a lot of user experience. Like, if we have a really clunky UI or like a very bad, like, I don't know, user experience or like of how they traverse the website or the app, it's just not going to be too good of an app. So that's a lot of things that the designer has to consider. But in terms of the games, there's a lot of storyboarding where we have scripts for the characters, maybe scenes, also the movement across the story, as in how does the character progress and stuff like that. And as I mentioned earlier, user experience, very, very important. Um, in terms of the game, you want to make sure the experience is fun and comfortable for the player. Um, so basically, just make your game fun. Well, but in terms of, let's say, web development or mobile development, this might be through very intuitive buttons or icons, placement, color. There's a lot of things you could do to alter the user experience, and there's a lot of things to keep in mind. And of course, this also carries over to a lot of different fields, but keep your target audience in mind. If you're making like a game that's aimed for like a mature audience, you don't want it to be like too easy, for example. Like, because a lot of people in that I guess audience wouldn't want like too easy of a game. Um, if you're making a puzzle game or like you're marketing your game as a puzzle game, you wouldn't want to make like, let's say, too, like, I don't know, the game too focused on like fighting or something, because that might not be what the game or what the player is looking for. But here are some learning resources for that. And Google actually has a pretty good UX design course on Coursera, I believe. You could also just watch them for free. So, you know, again, make sure to look through a few of these resources if you're interested in doing these roles. The wind beneath my wings. That is my iPad. Okay, so before I start the second question, I noticed that Emmy said for the previous question that Galaga and Overwatch were the favorite games. I think I played Overwatch like a while ago on console, and then in terms of League of Legends, I do agree that the art style is very nice and also complex. So for the artists, that'd probably be like a very big strain, especially like also for graphic designers. But yeah. Second question. What role out of these that I introduced would you like to take? And then two, in what field would you like this role? Let's say, you're not as interested in game dev. Maybe do you want to do web development or like mobile development? Um, and if you would pick a secondary backup option, what would your other role be? So I'll wait a little bit to get some answers. You could type it in the chat. You could type it wherever. Actually, let me check YouTube. I did not notice, but yeah, that's just chill. Whatever. But for me personally, of course, my role would be the programmer, right? Um, and then in terms of the field, if money was not like a constraint, I would probably just do game dev because I feel like it was really fun when I did it. My secondary option probably just like web development, because that also does seem fun and there's a lot of versatility with that. Um, and then in terms of my secondary backup option, I feel like personally I like project management a good amount because, you know, managing like a full project and like keeping people on tasks and stuff, I feel like is not really a specialty per se, but like I feel like I could be like pretty decent at that. So that would be my pick personally. If anybody else wants to pitch in, then just feel free to type in the events chat. And let's see what else. Also, for the check-in questions, I do have to consider.
Real quick, Kenta, could you go over on the roles again? I joined a bit late, so I didn't see the earlier roles.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. So a few of the roles. There's a game programmer. Program the game. Like focus on functionality. And then in terms of the tool, in terms of like game development, there's Unity and C Sharp. C Sharp for the scripting, Unity for the game engine. It provides a lot of things, like pre-made things, pretty much. A project manager, keep people on schedule, to get like a deadline done and stuff like that. One example of that was called technology for this would be Jira. It has a lot of features for like group work. This could also be implemented in whatever projects you do, in the future. There's an artist. You create a lot of art assets like 2D art, 3D art, UI, that kind of thing. Logos, you name it. So you could have a lot of specialties within this role. Here's of course, Photoshop's probably the industry standard. You could do a lot of features with it. There's also Blender for 3D art. And for designer, you just want to like kind of design the experience of the user through like storyboarding, let's say for the story or movement, that kind of thing, right? So was that like I did it really quickly, but was that fine?
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So I see that Emmy says that she wants to be a programmer, and then in terms of the field, just web dev. And then second option says design and artist. Yeah, design and art does seem pretty fun, but I have no art skill. But yeah, no, that does definitely seem fun to do. Um, for Josh, he says 1 game programmer and 2 game dev. So yeah, that's like, I guess, okay, it's good because hopefully my presentation did encourage you to get into game dev a little bit. But yeah, no, like game development, like programming wise, really fun. Um, like you have to be pretty creative with like the types of features you come up with, like because it's really dynamic. There's not really a set like tutorial for whatever feature you want. Like sometimes, of course, like basic player movement. There's a lot of tutorials for that, but like let's say you're like implementing a very obscure feature, you know, might be harder. And then third role is like project manager. Yeah, project management. It does also seem pretty fun, and that's why I chose it. Okay, moving on. Dev experience. This is my experience working as an intern as game dev. So, the first thing we did in the day, or I guess let me introduce this by saying this is my daily routine as the intern. This was like a kind of part-time internship in UC San Diego, and they just like offered it. I just applied. I got in for some reason, but I think what helped me for getting in was like mainly the side project that I made, because it showcased that I could like make games and brainstorm ideas for games, and that's what got me in. So, in terms of the daily routine, the first thing you do is a stand-up meeting, and this isn't like super talked about really in like a lot of like videos. I feel like, but basically you want to report the plans of what you plan to do for the day. Um, in terms of my internship, it was part time, so like we didn't discuss super in detail, as we would with like a full time internship, but nonetheless, we did a lot of planning there. Um, we also checked progress with the team because we have to make sure that all of the roles are like coordinated, as in terms of like what they're doing and you know what features or assets they're making. I communicated like personally I communicated a lot with like the artist and the designer, because you know you don't want just a box for like a for art asset that's temporary. You don't want that there while you do your game. So then we start work time. So of course during work, of course you also want to check in with your teammates and see who is doing what and what like how they're doing in terms of the progress for whatever art assets you need. Let's say a logo. Um, you might also check within like your other programmer to see how they're doing on their feature, so that you guys could get done on a timely manner, and that so that you could work on like the same quote unquote feature at the same time. Like let's say I'm doing a number puzzle game or something, right? I want to make sure that the artist is working on art assets for that feature specifically. And then of course implementing that takes up a majority of the work time. Um, once you get your task determined, you will move on to work. Um, and this could be through like debugging. Like I've spent whole days just debugging stuff before. Um, you know, it happens. Of course, implementing features that were requested. Some features are very fast to get done. Some features are very slow to get done. Um, and that you only learn from experience. Um, of course, you want to check the features with the advisor if you have an advisor. Um, you want to make sure that you're on track and you're implementing the right things in the right way. Um, and then, of course, you want to update the team on the changes via GitHub. Closing meeting. So at the end of the day, you do a closing meeting. You review what tasks you have got done, and you want to check your timeline so that you see that you're on task. And this is like, I guess during work time is mainly when the project manager would like set up tasks and mark them complete and stuff like that. But during the closing meeting, project manager is like pretty much one of the people who's in like charge of what is it called? in charge of like managing the meeting itself, so that they could review like all the roles, progress on the tasks and stuff like that. But that's basically the daily routine. There might be some stuff in between. If we have to have like a longer discussion, for example, for progress, there has been times where I had to like restart a whole feature, and that was kind of painful, but it happens. All right, so for my showcase, here is the game that I made. Um, this button isn't done, by the way. I think I updated this eventually, but this is like a mini gameplay demo, and this was made over the summer, I believe, from July to August, and I actually did like a lot of the programming. I implemented like 5 full puzzles, um, and then I put in like the wheel turn and the changing of the, what is it called, the image on the left of the wheels and stuff like that. I managed and set up the GitHub. GitHub, by the way, for people who don't know, is just like managing the versions of a a project and stuff like that. And then in terms of tools I use in general, there's GitHub, of course, Unity, C Sharp, because I was a programmer, so I mainly did the game programming. Demonstration. Well, that's fine. Whatever. You just watch while I talk about this. And then I also learned about like how to use raycast, as in this is how you do like object interaction. You basically shoot a ray toward an object and then interact with it. Um, that's basically how like object interaction works in Unity. You could do like circle cast or like straight line cast depending on how sensitive you want the object to be. Um, and then there's also like another highlight gameplay mechanic where I just did the number puzzle. This was probably like the most like programming intensive program, but you know, it is what it is. You could check this out more in detail in the slide, like if you want to check the slides later. But yeah. So for checking questions, um, I guess wait, I kind of already asked this though. It's fine. So I guess I'll just ask, what company, or like, do you have a company that you're aiming for, or like that you want to work in? For me personally, in terms of game dev, I feel like the best company to work at is like maybe Riot. Um, and then second maybe Nintendo. I don't know about the work conditions, but like I feel like Nintendo would be very fun to work in, personally. But um, in terms of like generally, maybe Google. I am in the Google Developer Student Club, so I mean like that'd be nice to work in Google. In terms of the field, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this was explained earlier. It's like probably just game dev if money wasn't as much of an issue, and then probably just software engineering. Uh, for Josh, he says, "I'm curious about Sony or the people who made God of War." Oh wait, that was like I believe Santa Monica Studios. Yeah, yeah, that would be cool. That'd be cool. Web dev for Google, take me please. Yes, same.
Wait,
Please.
quick question, Kenta.
What's up?
How much experience did you have before going into your internship?
Like none.
Because it sounds like, oh no.
Like literally none. Okay, like I just like honestly, one of the best ways you could learn like new technologies or just new things in general is just to YOLO
Hmm.
and like just to like do what you can and like run into whatever problems you can, and it's a really good learning experience. But like yeah, I had like basically no Unity experience when I joined the internship, but like it was really fun to learn a lot of Unity. I feel like software engineer. Okay, so I believe Christian says software engineering at NASA, JPL, or SpaceX. Very nice dream. That's a lot of math though. But no, that seems like really fun though. Honestly, like math is fun, like when it's applied, but like sometimes in class it's kind of boring. Not gonna lie. I would like to do freelance, but web dev for Google would be cool. Let's go. We are in the Google Developer Student Club. If you didn't notice, so that would be very nice. Also, I might get like guest speakers for Google in the future, so look forward to that. But yeah, freelance, that would be also really cool. Like if I could hold like a very sustainable like freelance company, that'd be the dream. Right. So the conclusion. We're at the conclusion, and questions and answers and stuff. So if you have any questions, or if you would like to like have me just review a slide later, or like just go back to a slide or something, then just let me know. Or like I guess general questions, right? I feel like I kind of like capped this part by just like having the option to just share the presentation, but like if you just have like general questions about I guess any other roles in the context of game dev or just in the context of I guess like software development as a whole, feel free to drop it in chat or you could just speak. Either way is fine. But while I wait for some questions, I will move on to the next slide just to show you some of the future workshops and events planned. In October, I would like to host a game development workshop with Unity. And this starts next week. Hopefully exams are done by then. I have an exam like probably 2 days, but you know, I'll try my best with getting this set up. And if it gets popular enough, I could also do a multi-part workshop. As in like, you know, I could get a little bit deeper into Unity. I specialize more in 3D development, by the way. But I specialize in 3D, so like I don't know if I could teach like 2D development, but you know, we out here. There's also gonna be, I believe, one of my or not workshop leads. One of my leads are available to doing a Jira or project management like introductory workshop. So you could also look forward to that. If you want to like make projects with the team, just group together some people from the GDSC. You know, Jira would be really good to know. And also, for Emmy and what is it, John? I know you guys are in the robotics team, so if you want to help with like project management for your robotics team, Jira is a really nice tool. I probably will start using it with my team personally. So, yeah. And then Emmy asks, would you know of any good internships for web dev? Web dev, I mean, in general, the thing is like those kinds of internships like are probably pretty competitive, especially for like community college students. But in terms of like when they open up and stuff, you probably want to start applying by like November or December. So you probably like for the summer, by the way. So like you probably want to like apply pretty early on. That's a really good idea to have. There's also, let's say, and if you have little to no experience, would it be good idea to take internships? They probably teach a lot on the job, so that's definitely a good idea. There's of course interview skills you have to consider. But you know, it's definitely good to take chances, and also having the experience with interviews, like even if you don't get in, I think would be really good. Um, but yeah, I think that should. It's about 40 minutes for the workshop, or I guess event more of. But yeah, no problem. Um, and then in November, I am planning to do a web dev theme. So in this month, we'll be like basically focusing like a lot on web development, and we'll just have a series of web development like workshops and maybe events, maybe even like ideation events, maybe just like project sessions, study jams. You know, it's gonna be like themed around web dev. Maybe at the end of the month, we could also try to participate in a hackathon. But another thing about that is, I believe that the Computer Science Club is hosting Mountie Hacks, which is a hackathon within Mount Sac. So if you would like to know more, you could probably just contact the president. I believe he's Noah Rainbow on the CS Club Discord if you are interested. But yeah, I think that will be it. If you would like to look at the link tree for like a lot of the social media links, that's always available. For now, the one that's probably going to be most active in terms of social media would be Instagram. Of course, follow me on LinkedIn. That was in like the previous few slides in the intro. So if you want to take a look at that, you could do that. And if you want to like sign up for the club to get like notifications and stuff like that, you could fill out this form, and this will also let me know like which, I guess, specializations you have, or like just what you would like be interested in. So feel free to sign that up. And that will be it for the presentation. So yeah, thank you for coming. If you have any other like last minute questions, you could always feel free to ask.
Will the presentation be like posted in the web browser, like the general like chat?
Oh yeah. For that one, it will be posted in previous event materials. Let me show the previous. Here you go. This is a channel that this will be.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably just share this right now actually, and it'll be a little bit easier to do that. So
Thank you.
there you go. I'll also probably just delete the extra. It's fine. And then this will also be on YouTube. As I mentioned before, I am streaming the thing on YouTube, so the YouTube video will always be available to watch. So if you just want to watch that, you also have that option. But yeah, any other just general questions? Okay, let's see. All right, thank you. I guess for now I just like stop the live stream, but yeah, if you have any general questions, you could always feel free to drop it in. I believe there's a questions channel right here. Questions, general questions. So if you ever want to like just drop in some general questions, feel free to do that. There's also a suggestion channel. So if you just have like general suggestions for events, workshops, projects, anything, just drop it in there. All right. So that should be it for the event. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next event.
Have a good night.
Okay,
Good night.
thank you for hosting, Kenta.
Mhm.
Well, I'll see you when I see you.